And thank you for joining us today for a conversation with the coach inside Rochester Baseball, our webinar series today featuring Coach Joe Reyna. My name is Terry Gurnett, class of 1977, and I'm the Associate Director of Athletics. Before we get started, I'd like to share a few Zoom tips. I invite you to choose Speaker View from the drop-down menu at the top of your screen. This will allow you to see the speakers more easily. In order to ensure an optimal experience for everyone tuned in, we have muted all participants for the presentation part of the program. If you would like to view this session with closed captions, click Live Transcript at the bottom toolbar and select Show Subtitles. If you are having any trouble viewing the meeting, you can call in and listen using the phone number that was included in your confirmation email. There will be a Q&A portion to today's event. If you'd like to ask a question, please direct those to the moderator via the chat function located at the bottom of the screen. Coach Reyna will take questions towards the end of the session. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our panelist, Coach Joe Reyna. Coach is in his 20th season of being the head coach at the University of Rochester. Coach Reyna has restored respectability, stability, and a national presence to our baseball program. His teams have been ranked as high as number 8 nationally, and he has a career record of 384, 313, and 2, a winning percentage of 55%, and is 225, 136, a 62% winning percentage in conference play. In 2019, Rochester claimed its first ever Liberty League tournament title and earned an automatic berth to the NCAA Division III tournament for the first time since 1999. Where they picked up their first ever NCAA tournament victory. They finished the year at 29-17, accumulating the second most wins in a single season in team history. The 46 games are the most ever played in one season. In 2008, they set the school record of 30 wins, and in 2015 had a 17-game winning streak. As teams have qualified for the Liberty League playoffs 12 times, and twice were the University Athletic Association champions. They have won the Liberty League regular season title 4 times. Coach Reyna has coached nearly 200 individual all-conference honorees from both conferences. Among those honors, Among those honors have been 3 Players of the Year, 6 Rookie of the Year accolades, and 1 Pitcher of the Year award. In 2017, pitcher John Geisel was selected in the 18th round of the Major League Baseball Amateur Draft, becoming only the second U of R player ever drafted by the MLB. Geisel is currently with the Cincinnati Reds organization. He's been recognized with 5 Coaching Staff of the Year awards and picked up his 300th career victory in 2015 with a win over Clarkson University. Off the field, Rochester has also excelled in the classroom over the last 2 decades. The program has had 3 players earn a total of 4 academic All-American honors over that span, including Adam Braverman, Nathan Stein, and back-to-back first-team representative Garrett Renslow. 9 baseball student athletes have been named UR Garnish Scholars since 2000, an award which honors the top senior student athletes at the university, and numerous players have been named academic all-conference. Prior to taking over at Rochester, Reyna was the assistant coach at the College of New Jersey, where he worked as the infield instructor and recruiting coordinator. He helped them win their first conference championship at 18 years in the year 2000. He has also worked with legendary coach Phil Chamberlain at Monroe Community College, where in his 2 years as a coach, the Tribunes tallied close to 100 wins and finished runner-up in the direct district championships. Joe is a Rochester native and a graduate of Gates Chili High School, where he started at shortstop for the Spartans. He played at Monroe Community College, where he was selected as the Region III Player of the Year and the second-team All-American shortstop. He was awarded a full athletic scholarship to Division I Long Island University. He was a 2-year starter for the Blackbirds, and he had 2 solid seasons, including his junior year, where he hit .371 and 4 grand slams in a season. He graduated with a bachelor's degree in physical education. He also earned a master's degree of education from TCNJ. During the summer months, Coach Reyna has a wide variety of experience in coaching all different levels. He has coached the New York Baseball League, New York Collegiate Baseball League, and as an assistant for the Bourne Braves and the prestigious Cape Cod Baseball League. In the summer of 2002 and in 2003, Coach Reyna was asked by Major League Baseball to work with their International Envoy program. He worked in Southern Germany and Japan with the purpose of furthering baseball in both countries. Coach will give us remarks and then open up to Q&A. Thank you again for joining us today. We hope you enjoy the presentation. Thanks very much. Coach?
Terry, thank you for those kind words. Welcome, everybody. I'm really excited to do this. I think it's a great opportunity for everybody here on this call to kind of get an inside look as to, what this program is about, especially this last year, which has proved to be pretty difficult to kind of navigate through. So that's that's what I'll be talking about. And like Terry said, I would be more than happy to answer some questions once we're done here. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we'll take you back to last February as we're practicing, preparing our team for, a run to defend our Liberty League championship that we had won in 19. We started to hear a little bit about this disease that was happening, and the noise started to get a little louder. And at that time, we're planning on heading out to California, where I believe it's the first time the baseball program has headed out on the West Coast to play games. And we had a very loaded schedule. Everyone was really excited to play. I felt we had a tremendous team to go out and compete against some of the best teams in the country, especially in the West region. So that, as we move into March, we were taking off on March 5th. Word was coming down that, some institutions were going to cancel team spring trips. Fortunately for us, we were able to get out to California at the time. That weekend, that Saturday, Sunday, we played 4 games against Pomona Pitzer. Went 1-3, probably should have split. To be honest with you, played pretty well. And things were going as planned. As I started to talk to fellow colleagues out on the West Coast, it was, hey, this team pulled out of coming out west. Would you be able to pick some games up, while you're out here? And we had every indication of doing so, adding on to our already 10-game schedule. But you started to hear, we were watching the news, and questions were coming from our players, as well as the 120 so parents and friends and family that had traveled out to California with us, as to, hey, what's the plan with Rochester? What, have you heard anything? And, my message to them was, hey, we're out here to play some baseball, get better. If I hear anything, obviously I'll let you guys know. And we were going about our business. March 11th came. Email was sent out to all undergraduate students, letting them know that, class was going to go virtual at that point. And, prior to us playing, we had a game scheduled at Occidental College that day. I kind of had the idea, okay, something good is not coming our way. And then bottom of the second inning that game, we had gotten word that our season was canceled. And it slowly started to navigate its way through the team. By the end of the game, I had asked, a good friend of mine at Occidental, hey, can we stay out in left field? Because this is what had just happened. At that point, we pulled our team, friends and family, everyone that had traveled out to California with us, out to left field to break the news, which was pretty tough. Answered a lot of questions, and, tough on the seniors, especially tough on everyone involved, because we had put so much work into it. And then by 7:30 at dinner, I was informed that we were to cease all games and activities, immediately, because, there was obviously growing concern what was going on. So, my staff and I, as along with our head athletic trainer, Eric Rosen, now started the process of, okay, how do we get, 37 students back to campus safely. So once we got back home, we began, to make sure that our student athletes got back to their, hometown safely. The process of virtual classes began, Zoom classes began, and it was weekly check-ins with our students as to how they're doing, how class was going, making sure that, whatever needs they had, we could we could try to figure out a way to help them. It was all new to me, all new to our administration, all new to everybody, pretty much. At the same time, we had questions coming in from recruits as to what fall of 20 would look like. Are we going to have kids on campus? We were working with our strength and conditioning coaches to figure out a way, how do we provide our student athletes with the tools in order to make sure their strength conditioning, their mental and physical well-beings are being met. As gyms were closing, what could we do? I thought our fitness science program did a tremendous job, and with what they had and staying in contact with our guys as well. So, and that brings us to May, June, July, and August, where, anyone that knows, that's a heavy time recruiting wise for us, where virtual recruiting became very prevalent and almost the norm. Recruits send us videos. We had virtual calls with players, with recruits. The institution did not allow visitors on campus, so we now had to rely on other parts of the university, with admissions doing a great job with their virtual tours of campus. Kudos to the admissions department for reacting fast and doing a tremendous job. I thought they were extremely helpful. We also had to monitor, New York State travel guidelines as to what states, I could travel to or my staff could travel to, what the quarantine guidelines meant. At the time, U of R did not support business travel. So anything that we did, we had to do on our own. But I also saw an opportunity because most Division I schools were in a quiet period, meaning they couldn't go out on the road. They could not recruit. So I my staff and I kind of made a decision. Hey, this is an opportunity for us to get a higher end, maybe student athlete than we normally would in the past. So we took advantage of that. At the time, also, the NCAA had come down and allowed, Division I student athletes to enter a transfer portal, which allowed kids to transfer to another school without being penalized. We kind of watched that as well, to see what was out there. And everything that we did, we did it safe. And in my opinion, I think we brought one of the best, if not the best, recruiting classes that will be attending Rochester this fall. It's probably one of the best classes that I've had the opportunity to bring in. And we brought in some really good ones. So I'm very excited, and looking forward to, getting those kids on campus. As July and August started to roll around, we also were in contact with our team coming in as to what the fall would look like. Many schools had opted out of having kids on campus. Our senior administration, our administration was fantastic, with developing a plan, working that plan through, executing it, allowing our kids to have as much of a normal fall season as possible. They allowed, the NCAA also allowed us a different way to do our season, which traditionally it is based on weeks. They had changed it to a number of days system and added significant number of days on that, which again provided our kids an opportunity to participate, get better, as well as allowed us to be with our guys quite a bit. So we had, on August 31st was our first team lift, and we had to break that up a little bit, but guys got to see one another. We were able to meet with our strength and conditioning coaches, which is great. Those guys are a huge part of our program. We started a full practice on September 18th and ended on November 6th with our Blue Gold World Series, where we, put everything on our social media pages. We had a draft. We divided it up between two captains, let the kids have some fun with it. It was great. Brought a lot of energy to our guys, and again, kind of gave a sense of normalcy and the ability for our older guys to, get attached to our younger guys and vice versa. So that brings me to, where we currently are. And believe it or not, on April 7th, it is 62 degrees and sunny out. Hard to believe. But we are currently 5-2 on our season. We've had some really good wins. We were able to start the season by going to Cortland State, taking a doubleheader there, which Cortland State's a national power. We're able to play some really quality teams, and give our guys an opportunity to play. We've outsourced our stream service to a third party, so we're able to upgrade that. And it's free of charge this season. So you can find our streams right on our home schedule. Click on the link, it'll take you right to the site. We are able to schedule a full 40-game season, which I believe right now we are currently one of 2 teams in the New York region that has done that. The student athletes and staff are tested twice a week, follow protocols to play that have been outlined by our medical staff here. Senior administration has been 110% behind us playing games and allowing us to do it safely. The Liberty League has a full league schedule along with postseason play. The NCAA has also come out and said that they are going to host spring championships. Yesterday, a vaccination program had started here at our medical center for our undergraduate students, as well as the county and state have offered time slots for kids to be vaccinated. So by this Friday, we will have approximately 90% of our team that will have the first dose vaccination in their arm. So we're trending in the right direction. The future is very promising. This summer, we are going to replace our turf that was installed in 2012. We are going to put a new surface down. Word is coming down that recruiting will return to a sense of normalcy this summer, which is great. And we will commence construction of our grandstand and press box in summer of 2022, which here are a few images, renderings of what it will look like. So that will be a nice addition to our already beautiful facility. And how you guys and friends of the program, alumni, parents, whoever wants to, how you can get involved, the continued support through donations that directly impacts our baseball program and what we can provide, our student athletes. The support of facility upgrades, that will take place over the next year will be very important. Joining the Meliora Collective group, there's an athletes group. This was actually started by 2 of our former baseball players, David Reith and Kyle Trombley. Both were captains of that 2020 team. And you see the link there. That provides information, a connection, not only with baseball players, but with any student athlete that's involved here at the University of Rochester. A great group, and I would encourage anyone that wishes to do so to please do that. Along with being a mentor with our student athletes with career advice, internships, just making that connection. We do a lot of that with our guys. So if anyone is at all interested, please reach out to me. Let me know what area of expertise you are in, and that allows myself to pair up our student athletes with the right people when those student athletes have questions. So and as always, these are the group that kind of lost their season In 2020, those guys are near and dear to my heart. But, thank you for all the support that, the alumni and friends and family have given us. What we did during March Madness set a record. And that is very much appreciated by everybody involved. So thank you again. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions, Ashley.
Great. Thank you, Coach. That was a wonderful presentation. If anyone has any questions that they would like to ask Coach at this time, I ask that you submit them in the chat box to myself, and I will gladly read them off to Coach for you. So I'd like to start off with, who is your mentor and or favorite coach, and why?
I would have to say Coach Chamberlain at Monroe Community College. I would say him and my high school coach, Tom McManus at Gates Child. I think they were two ends of the spectrum, with Coach McManus being that soft, subtle voice, where Coach Chamberlain, and anyone that knows the history of Rochester baseball knows Coach Chamberlain. He is a former Marine and treated his program as such. He takes young boys and makes them men by holding them accountable. Being tough on them at times, but at the same time, I mean, he's always been that guy that no matter where you are, he's always watching what you do and how you do it, and he's not afraid to give you an earful of advice even if you don't ask for it. So, guy that's near and dear to my heart. So he's probably, those two are the biggest ones.
Great, thank you. We have a couple questions in regards to the current team. Can you speak to the geographic makeup of your team?
So years ago, I had a great assistant coach, Eddie Kahovic, who is now the head coach at Holy Cross, who had played for me and coached with me for 4 years. Ed had come in and said to me, hey, I think we need to kind of broaden where we go to bring in players. And we had made a decision to kind of venture out to different parts of the country. And what we discovered is the academic reputation of the University of Rochester allowed us to go into parts of California, Texas, Georgia, Florida, Chicago, and really bring in some highly, highly qualified student athletes. So we've done that. We also have, a player from the Philippines, Harper, who is a current junior here. So, we're utilizing the reputation of the school to go into those areas, bring in some really quality kids, and we continue to do that. This class that's coming in the fall is no different than any other class that we have, and we'll continue to do that as well.
Great, thank you. We have a question in regards to video analytics. Is this something that you use in training and practices?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to have a young man who just left us this past January, RJ Michaels, who was a data analytics major here at the University of Rochester, who was big into it. I personally happen to be more old school traditional guy. But RJ was adamant about it, committed to it. And, the story goes, and this is true, we were at St. Lawrence playing one day, and offense was kind of struggling a little bit. And at breakfast, RJ walked up to me, and mind you, he is a sophomore at this point, and hands me a napkin. And he says, Coach, this is what I think the lineup should be. And it's all based on numbers, the on base percentage and things like that. Key categories that we hold true to our program. And I took the napkin and I said, okay, RJ, let me finish my coffee. We get to the field and we're taking batting practice, and I can kind of see him pacing a little bit. And he said, hey, we finished batting practice. And he said, hey, did you get a chance to look at the lineup? And I go, yeah, I did. And he goes, what do you think? And I said, RJ, let me think about it. So a couple minutes go by and I go, okay, we're going to go with your lineup. And we scored 5 runs in the top of the first. And I'm coming off third base and walking in the dugout, and RJ's kind of pacing in front of the dugout and, wanted the congratulations, wanted me to say, great job, RJ. So I let it sit for a little bit, and, we go back out in the second inning and we score 2 more. And, the rest is history. I mean, the numbers, he's a very intelligent kid, and we used it, and we still do to this day when we construct our lineup. So it's a big part of, what we do. It's a piece that we have to take a look at because we've had just so much success with it.
Thank you, Coach. We have a couple questions in regards to COVID and how this past year has looked like, in particular for students. Can you talk about perhaps the underclassmen, so those just coming in, the freshmen in particular, and how that has impacted them this year, being just so different than in years past?
The challenging part was in the fall. Anyone that's played college baseball understands the fall season is where your team really gets together and bonds a lot. And it's not necessarily on the field. It's off the field, seniors and juniors hanging out with freshmen, sophomore players and going to eat lunch and dinner and, the off campus, guys, having guys over for the World Series and watch, doing stuff like that. And we just couldn't do that this year. So, my staff and I kind of sat down and said, how can we're not going to solve that problem, but how can we best, ease that a little bit? And it was keeping guys together on the field as long as we could. Has it been perfect? No. Have the freshmen and sophomores, for that matter, have they missed out on things? Absolutely. Is that group as close with the seniors as we've had in past teams? Probably not. But it's just been different. And I will, those first year guys have done a tremendous job, because I can't imagine, what it's like on, being in their shoes. So, the more time we can spend together out on the field, working out in the weight room, we're going to do that, because that's the only thing that we have to give those guys once they leave us. There's limitations as to what you can do on campus. There's limitations to what you can do off campus. So we've got to find a way to kind of ease as much of that as we can.
Thank you. This past year, due to the pandemic, I think everyone has kind of had to take a different approach to things. Is there anything in particular that you feel that you've done differently or learned that you plan on continuing to implement post-pandemic?
I've learned how to Zoom, which I think everybody has. I find it to be a great tool. But I think, patience, as that's always, I'm a highly competitive individual. I've learned to be even more patient, because we have, everybody missed out on a season last year, and a lot of people missed out on baseball this past summer. So there's repetitions that you simply just can't make up. And the first year guys, they're jumping from high school to college, and that jump is fast anyways. But they didn't even have an opportunity to play as seniors. And, to give them inter-squad games in the fall, that's great. But when you have another team on the other side of the field that's trying to beat you, you have to be patient with younger players. So I think that's something that, we'll continue to work on. It is always going to be a work in progress, but I think going forward, I think it's served our players very, very well.
Great, thank you. We have a lot of alumni on the call, and I know you spoke about, a couple of giving opportunities. Can you speak to directly if individuals are looking to help with the annual spring trip and funding of that for the students?
Yeah, alumni that have played here, the weather in March. I mean, this is a rarity what we have outside today in April. And those early games are so incredibly important. So us continuing going to warm weather places is a must. And it gets, as years go on, it gets more and more expensive. So I think, helping ease that cost is probably our number one priority right now. That is an expensive trip, a must have in what we do. The players contribute a little bit towards that, at the same time, fundraising opportunities as to what our guys can do are becoming more and more limited, only because the academics here take up a ton of time. So I think any support towards that trip is critical. I know Terry and Jared and Ashley, your office has done a tremendous job in helping us trying to find avenues to help ease that cost. But that will continue to be one of our top goals, if not our top goal.
Thank you. You've spoken to the appeal of the U of R being an academic institution, and your team seems to do very well and has high academics. Is there any secrets to your success in having your team be not only good on the field, but also good academically?
Well, I will say I learned a pretty valuable lesson early on here, and that was, if you burn the candle at both ends, nobody wins. So there had to be some sacrifice on my end in terms of practice time, in terms of, how we structure things a little bit to allow guys to focus really on what they're here for. And that's to better themselves for once they graduate. So there's been a lot of give and take. I don't think that will never change, only because I've seen the results that we've gotten from this. But allowing guys, coach, hey, I can't make lift today because I have this group project. Okay, fine, no problem. Make the lift up some other time, or coach, I can't make practice today. Okay, fine. Well, you got a break? Yeah, I've got, 2 hours from this time from, noon to 2. Okay, well, let's come down and let's get some work in for 40 minutes, and then you can go about your day. Doing more of that gets us much, much further than, hey, you need to be at practice. You need to schedule around practice, things of that nature.
Great, thank you. We have a few more questions that have come in regards to recruiting. Can
Yep.
you address what the most productive recruiting region is for you?
I don't necessarily think there's a particular region. I think it is, one of the things we did, and Eddie Kahovic, I give him a lot of the credit, is our relationships with the Ivy League head coaches. I've established and we have established very good relationships with all of those coaches, so that if there is a player or two, that maybe they pass on, Rochester is one of the first schools that they mention. I'm fortunate enough to have 2 of my former assistants at Harvard. I have an assistant, a former player of mine, who's now the recruiting coordinator at Brown. I have a former player and former assistant at Yale. So those guys, those are relationships that we continue to nurture. But I wouldn't say in particular there's a certain region that we've had more success than others with.
Great. Again, so there are alumni on this call. If they were looking to help in recruitment efforts, what would be the best avenue for them to go about that?
I would say, the easiest thing to do is to really send me an email, and let me know who, what, where, all the particulars. With social media, with recruiting services out there, I mean, it's easy for us to track down a player and their numbers and video and things like that. That would probably be the best way to go about it.
Great. So going back to academics a bit, is there a popular major on your team, or any particular fields that they're looking to go into that you'd like to talk about?
I would say the engineering field is probably our most popular between mechanical and biomedical. Obviously, we do have some optics majors, we have some chemical engineers, electrical, but that's probably our most popular, followed closely by financial economics is a big one, as well as political science. But when you poll our team, out of, I think we have 37 roster players, we hit everything. So there isn't just 2 or 3 majors that are represented. It's everything that the university offers, which I think is fantastic.
That is great. I would just like to remind everyone, we have time for a couple more questions. If anyone has any, feel free to submit them in the chat box. What are your thoughts on today's game?
Well, as a diehard Yankee fan, I get very frustrated with the strikeout. But I understand. There's a lot of people smarter than I that are making those decisions, that are writing checks to those players. So I just think everything evolves, and sometimes that evolution isn't always better for the game, but it's also not, it's not that bad. So I'm a big pitching and defense guy, moving runners around. So the college game is much different than the professional game. So that's where I think my frustration with the professional game comes from.
Fair enough. All right. Let's end on hopefully a happy note. What is your favorite U of R memory?
Oh, geez, the favorite U of R memory. I honestly, I mean, we've had, there's quite a few, but I will say when I saw the bulldozer dig up our old field, I thought that was my favorite, just because I knew what it could provide our student athletes with the ability to play games, the ability to practice, the ability to practice at different times with the lights that we have. I felt from the day I got word we were getting a new facility, I thought that was going to be a game changer for us, and it's proven to be just that. So, obviously the easy thing is the year we won 30 games, that was another good one. In the 19 season when we, won the Liberty League title, that was obviously a good one too. So there's been a lot, but I would say when I saw that bulldozer dig the field up, I thought that was probably one of my favorites.
That is a very good memory. We do have another question too.
Yep.
How can people buy Rochester baseball gear? Can we direct them to our bookstore, or do you have a better avenue?
Typically we have had a online store,
Okay.
that we have run through our baseball program, with, unfortunately, one of the downfalls of that of COVID is the supply is extremely limited. So I do suspect that will return once the supply for certain things comes back online. But generally, what I do is when we have that store and it's up and running, I'll send an email out to all of alums and friends and family, and it has a direct link to it, and you can go on and purchase. I do think the bookstore does carry some things, but you know, I don't know if it doesn't carry a lot of the stuff that we wear in our program. So I promise, as soon as that gets up and running, I will be sure to send an email out to all of our alumni and the emails that we get through our alumni office.
Great. Thank you, Coach. I'm going to turn it back over to Terry now to close us out of our program.
Coach, thank you very much for your presentation. Really appreciate it. And thank you everyone that joined us today. Great job. We hope you all enjoyed it too. Special thanks to our outstanding moderator, Ashley Steve Doherty. And we thank you all for your continued support of Rochester baseball. And I'd like to invite you to contact Coach directly if you have any further questions. Have a great day. Joe, good luck in your game today.
Thank you.
Doubleheader against Alfred State. And
Go
go
Jackets.
Jackets.